Please adhere to YouTube selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals.
Alright, so today I'm going to be smoking a cigarette from Kazakhstan for the first time, which I am looking forward to doing, much more so than not, as I am very curious to try a new cigarette from a new country I've never tried a cigarette from before, and I am also very excited to find out just how cigarettes from Kazakhstan actually are for the first time, what they're like, and whether I enjoy them or not. Will I end up enjoying my first ever experience with a cigarette from Kazakhstan? Well, I don't know, but I am very excited to find out, to say the least. What I've got with me today is a pack of Chapman Gold Cigarettes from Kazakhstan, which, from what I can tell at least, are a medium to full flavored cigarette that has a Virginia blend. These were produced for and were sold on the market in Kazakhstan. However, they were not actually made in Kazakhstan, instead actually being made in Germany by the von Eicken Tobacco Company, a historic German tobacco manufacturer that has a pretty high reputation for providing high-quality tobacco products. And Chapman as a brand as well is quite well known for providing a high-quality tobacco product. As such, I certainly do have much higher expectations than not for these cigarettes right here. I certainly do expect them to be much more solid than not, even though I really don't know anything about the history of Chapman as a brand. That's right, I don't know when Chapman as a brand was first introduced. I don't know really to any full extent what other countries they're sold in besides, of course, Germany and Kazakhstan. I really don't know anything about Chapman as a brand, but a little mystery never hurt. And that just makes me all the more excited to try these cigarettes right here. Thank you so much to Kirk for having been kind enough to provide this pack of cigarettes to the channel for me to smoke and make a full review on. I am, to say the least, very excited to try this pack of cigarettes for the first time and to try a cigarette from Kazakhstan for the first time as well. I am looking forward to this experience, much more so than not, without a doubt. Thank you so much once again for the contribution to the channel. Kirk, I really do appreciate it. Without further ado, let's go ahead and quickly cover the packaging design. Then after that, let's go ahead and get the cellophane all off. Let's go ahead and get the pack all opened up. Go ahead and take a look at what the cigarettes look like, what they feel like, and what the quality of them is like. And then after that, let's go ahead and get one of the cigarettes inside this pack all lit up for the first time. Let's get a cigarette from Kazakhstan all lit up for the first time and find out just how these cigarettes are, what they're like, and just overall whether I like them or not. And once I'm done smoking a cigarette or two, I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys my final thoughts on this pack, give you guys my final thoughts on cigarettes from Kazakhstan based off this one experience at least, and I'm gonna give this pack a rating as well. But first off, as said, we've got to go over the packaging design, which overall is a pretty solid look if you ask me, if you ignore the massive warning label on the very top of the packaging. That is, we can see there is a graphic warning label with a background of a sort of dark slate blue, I'd have to say, and on that dark slate blue there is a hideous, disgusting, blackened, bloodied, bruised foot with what looks like animal fat all over it. I don't know what happened to that foot, but I don't want that happening to me. Let me tell y'all what. In Kazakh, it just says gangrene right there. From what I can tell, at least that's what Google Translate told me. I will acknowledge. And, well, I'm assuming they're trying to infer from this warning label that smoking causes gangrene. I don't know truly how true that is, but this looks more like trench foot to me. I don't want that happening to my foot. I'm gonna make sure I change my socks. That is for sure. I'm not letting my feet get all moldy, and I'm not letting that happen to me. That is a disgusting warning label, and I hate it so much. That covers, I'd have to say, probably the first 60% of the front of the packaging. On the bottom 40%, though, we can see there is a real design, which has a background of a sort of yellowed gold with a beige border going all the way around. At the very top up here, we can see we get a gold line just going all the way across, just interrupted in the middle by a little sort of, I'd have to say, just sort of swirly design that looks a little bit more fancy than not, in my personal opinion. Below that, in a sort of beige white, it just says Chapman right there with the C a little bit bigger than all of the other letters. So it is a little bit stylized, I will acknowledge, and overall looks pretty good and pretty fancy if you ask me. The text itself does indeed have a slight drop shadow of brown that emphasizes the text a little bit more so than not, and this text is also all embossed, which is quite nice if I do say so myself. Below the Chapman logo itself, besides the text, or not besides the text, sorry, below the text, we just get another gold line with a swirly bit in the middle right there, and it's pretty much just reversed from the one on the top. Below this side of the gold line, we just get what looks like a cigarette tax stamp right here, but that's actually part of the design of this packaging. It is not actually a tax stamp. We can see it is a more intricate design than not. Just up here in gold, it just says Von Eicken since 1770, and that's not actually in gold, that's more of a brown, I'd have to say, but it's sort of a goldish brown tone in my personal opinion. We can see a little bit of gold medallions over here, some trees, a bunch of people in a bunch of multicolored outfits. Just says Chapman right there in brown as well, and they're really trying to look very fancy with this sort of semi-tax stamp looking sticker design, I'd have to say. It's not an actual sticker, it is just designed to look like one, but it does look very solid nonetheless if you ask me, and overall I quite like the look of this design right here, and it definitely does make the pack just look a little bit more interesting and a little bit more fancy than not, in my personal opinion. Is there anything else I want to mention about the design on the sticker itself? The Chapman sort of text itself has a, I'd have to say, white background to it, whereas the text itself is in brown. There's a little bit of a ship in the background as well, and yeah, no, overall, I gotta admit, looks pretty good. There is also a little bit of a butterfly design in the corner right there, I want to say. Let me just see if I can hold that up closely so y'all can see the real details of that, as it's a very intricate design, I will acknowledge. Just gonna hold it up just for a moment, and we can see this sticker itself. It has a border of white going around the actual design itself, with a border of gold going around the white background, and that border of gold is what meets the sort of yellow gold background of the actual design itself right here. This sticker overall looks pretty solid, and to the side of that in white it just says gold right there, just letting us know exactly what variety of Chapman cigarettes this actually is. Then under that there's a little bit of a gold line right there once again, and then, or no wait, nope, that's actually not in gold, it's kind of in a brown. On the sort of yellowed background though, the, well, brown can kind of look like gold more so than not, hence my confusion. But yep, we just got a little bit of like a fancy brown line right there, and then under that we get some text in Kazakh. It just says that these cigarettes are made with a high-quality Virginia blend, according to Google Translate at least. And then under that in red, it just has a signature, I assume from the master blender of the blend of these cigarettes, or something along those lines. Then under all of that in white, it just says something in Kazakh. I did translate that. I don't remember exactly what it says though. I'm gonna have to put up a translation of what the front of the packaging says on the screen right now, just so y'all can see. With that image now taken down, feel free to replay the video and pause it if you guys missed anything. But with that image now taken down, is there anything else about the front of the packaging I want to cover? And I'd have to say there is. On the sort of yellow goldish background of the packaging, there is actually a lower design. So we have the foreground design right here, made up of the Chapman text itself, this sticker over here, this text over here, and then we have the color itself, and then below the color itself, we have some details in a sort of, I'd have to say, very light brown. It just has like a building, like right here, something like that kind of thing, a little bit of a logo right there, some text and whatnot going on as well. It's nothing like too insane. I can't really exactly tell what they're trying to do, but there's just a building, a logo, just says like manufactured and stuff like that. I think they're just trying to add some detail to the colored background, and that's exactly what the detail is, even if the detail doesn't really mean anything, which I don't think it does. Maybe they're just trying to make this look a little bit more historic with that, which I think does work. And overall, that's pretty much all there is to the front of the packaging design. In my opinion, looks pretty solid and, well, aesthetics-wise is very good. Functionality-wise, I'd have to say very good as well. The tax stamp sticker design definitely does make this pack much more distinct than not from a distance. And while from a distance, you might not be able to tell that this is actually a pack of Chapman cigarettes if you don't know what you're looking at. But if you do know what you're looking at and you know what you're looking for, these are going to be quite distinct from a distance, and you're going to know that the place that sells these actually does indeed sell these in. These do appear to be a little bit more eye-catching than not from a distance as well. Up close, they look good. From a distance, they look good. I think functionality-wise, they're pretty solid as well. Overall, solid design for a pack of cigarettes, if you ask me. Moving on from the front of the pack to the back, we can see it is exactly the same as the front. Like, actually, just exactly the same. There are no differences at all. Not from what I can tell, at least. It is the exact same design. Although, now that I've said that, the design actually, it's slightly different. It's just slightly different. So, yeah, wait, actually, I didn't notice that until now. It is slightly different. The warning label on the back of the pack is slightly smaller, and this is slightly bigger. And the Chapman text itself is not embossed as well. There's no gold line on the top, only on the bottom. And then this text right here is not quite as cut off. We can tell what that says just a little bit better now. So that is very interesting. But other than those couple details, it does appear to be the exact same design. And yep, that's all that's going on with the back of the packaging. Moving on to this side of the packaging, we can see barcode down here. We get a background of that sort of yellow gold once again with a border of that sort of beige white. We can see at the very top in gold, it just says Von Eicken, Germany, right there, just letting us know exactly who made these cigarettes with a little bit of a coat of arms above that as well. And then we can see it just says EAC right there. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm sure it means something. And then we just get a little bit of a warning label on the side that just says, like, don't sell these cigarettes to people under 21, and especially not to people under the age of 18. I did not realize this, but I do suppose that the legal smoking age in Kazakhstan is 21, not 18 or lower. So that is pretty interesting if I do say so myself. Under all of that, it just says, produced by Von Eicken in Germany. And, yep, that's all that's going on this side of the packaging. Pretty much just informational. Moving on to the other side, we can see it just says there are 20 cigarettes with filters, if I'm remembering correctly. That's what this says, and that's all in gold. We can see same overall background and border design. And we can see it just says that these cigarettes were imported by a certain company, that they're made by Von Eicken. And then we get another little bit of a warning right here, basically just saying cigarette smoke contains a lot of carcinogens and cancer-causing substances and whatnot. This warning label, I can't read it because I can't read Kazakh. Or I believe it's in 2 different languages. I think it's in Kazakh and in Russian. I could be wrong. I'm horrible with languages, so please do correct me in the comments down below if I am wrong. But I believe there's 2 different warnings in 2 different languages. One warning is in Kazakh and one warning is in Russian, I want to say, at least. And actually, wait a minute. I'm just looking. Okay, that's the same as well. Okay, yeah. But that's why we've got, like, the 2 same, like, pieces of text right here. They're just in 2 different languages. Same with right here, and same with right here as well. So they're planning ahead. They've got 2 different languages on this pack, which is very interesting if I do say so myself. I've only ever seen that in on a handful of other packs from other countries, or from a handful of packs from all packs from a handful of other countries, from Ireland and from Canada, to be precise. Those are the only 2 countries I've ever seen dual language packs of cigarettes from, so it's pretty interesting to see it again. Got my words a little bit jumbled up there, but I think y'all know what I mean. And yep, that's pretty much all there is to this side of the packaging. Moving on to the top, we see the same overall background design, same border design as well, and it just says Chapman right there front and center with a gold line on the top and the bottom. Basically just a miniaturized version of the front of the packaging. Is this text embossed? Indeed, it does appear to be, which is pretty nice if I do say so myself. And moving on to the bottom of the pack, we can see there's pretty much no actual design for Chapman as a brand. It is all sort of, well, production oriented, I do suppose. There's a QR code right there, another little barcode right there, and then there's a bunch of numbers and stuff like that. I'm just gonna put those right there. If you all know what those mean, let me know in the comments down below. I don't know what these mean, but I assume they're like batch codes or product numbers or something along those lines, maybe import numbers as well. But yep, that's pretty much all there is to the design overall. Besides the graphic warning label, looks pretty good in my personal opinion. Certainly no complaints on my behalf. Let's go ahead and get the cellophane all off of this pack now, and let's go ahead and put my cellophane in my backpack. And ooh, right off the bat, these are smelling really good. I know it says on the front of the pack that these are Virginia blend, but one of the things I was thinking was a possibility, but I didn't know for sure, so I didn't want to say it, was that this might be a flavored pack of cigarettes, a vanilla flavored pack of cigarettes to be precise. I wasn't sure about that. So I didn't want to say it. But just smelling this, it smells like these are probably going to be like vanilla something flavored, if I had to hazard a guess. I do think these may indeed be flavored cigarettes, I will acknowledge. No complaints on my behalf about that. And they smell just fantastic right off the bat, I will acknowledge. I wonder if there's some sort of regulation in Kazakhstan that says you're not allowed to say that these are flavored cigarettes on the front of the pack, but flavors are allowed as long as you don't say it. I wonder if that's the case in Kazakhstan, and that might be exactly why they did not say that these are flavored on the front of the pack. Not exactly sure, but from what I have heard, a lot of the cigarettes that Chapman as a brand has are indeed flavored. So I do suppose it's not too big of a surprise that these are more than likely flavored as well, based off the smell at least. Let's go ahead and quickly cover the quality of the packaging, which, if you ask me, is overall just average quality. Nothing particularly insane by any means. Average quality is not bad, though. I want to clarify, it just means it's average. This is really no better of quality of packaging than most other cigarette packs, and so as such, it's average quality. Texture-wise, overall, the texture is very interesting. It's got sort of a rough texture to it, like sort of a rough, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it. It's almost got a rough, almost sort of very fine grit sandpaper texture to it, which is very, very, very interesting. And that texture continues all the way down here, but the sticker itself is very much that of a glossy sort of paperboard texture. So there's some texture change going on with this packaging, which I like quite a bit. The sides as well are very much that of a glossy sort of paperboard texture, I'd have to say, but the back, the top, and not the bottom. The bottom is just sort of a normal paperboard texture, but yeah, that sort of very fine grit sandpaper texture continues all the way around, giving this pack a very interesting texture. Very, very, very interesting. And you can just hear that. That is very interesting if I do say so myself. I gotta admit, I think I've only ever felt like one other pack of cigarettes with a texture like this one. And overall, does this pack of cigarettes look better without the cellophane on? I'd have to say it most certainly does, as is the case with 99.9% of packs that are not plain packaging. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get this pack all opened up, and let's go ahead and take a look at what the inside looks like. At the very top, we can see there is a bunch of text that I cannot read, but it says something. If I remember, I will take a photo of that after this video, and I will go ahead and put what it says up there. And I'm gonna go ahead and take that down now, but that's only if I remember to take a photo after this video. But it says something in gold. We can see the cigarette insert itself is pretty much just a normal cigarette insert, nothing particularly too special, I will acknowledge, just a white cigarette insert with a normal sort of cut and design. And taking a look at the foil itself, it's just a plain white foil. Nothing particularly special by any means, although there does appear to be a line going across horizontally. Just feeling the foil, it's foily on one side, and I'd have to say sort of foily sort of cloth almost cloth-like texture on the inside, I'd have to say. Let's go and see how easily it pulls out, and pulls out, well, satisfyingly easily and very cleanly as well. No complaints on my behalf about that. Let's go ahead and put the pack down just real quick, put that in my backpack, and now let's go ahead and get one of the Chapman Gold cigarettes out of the pack for the first time. Ooh, man, these look fancy. Oh, man, these look fancy. Let me tell y'all what. Let's go ahead and start off by smelling this cigarette right here. And overall, it smells really good. Now, does it really smell like tobacco? Not that much, I'm not gonna lie. It really smells like flavoring, but it smells like good flavoring. It smells, I'd have to say, very much like that of a predominantly vanilla. Yeah, it smells predominantly like vanilla with an undertone of like mocha caramel. Yeah, this smells almost like, I'd have to say, like a hot chocolate with like whipped cream and like caramel on top of the whipped cream. It smells almost like that. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, this really does smell like, I'd have to say, vanilla, mocha, and caramel. It smells damn good, without a doubt. Ooh, man, oh man, smells delicious. Anything else I'm not noticing? I think that's about everything. Maybe a little bit of a coffee scent as well. Yeah, I'd have to say, I think the right way of describing the smell of this cigarette is very much that of a predominantly like vanilla, caramel, mocha, and then coffee-like scent. And that's what the four main smells of this cigarette are. They all smell great. All of the scents smell great, and overall, this cigarette smells fantastic, without a doubt. No complaints on my behalf. Man, I could go for some incense or a candle that smells like this, I'm not gonna lie. Let's go ahead now, just take a look at the actual look of the cigarette. We can see we get a beige white filter with some text on it. Then below that, we get a reflective gold band right there. And then below that, we get a brown paper with a slightly rough texture. Like, this is actually paper. This is not tobacco leaf, but it's not a straight brown. It's got some dark areas. It's got some light areas. It is more of a rough looking paper than not rough feeling. I think the whole roughness is actually by design. I think they made that a design on the paper on purpose to give it a slightly more natural look, I will acknowledge. But overall, yep, this cigarette looks great. I'm not gonna lie. Just says Chapman right there on the beige white filter in a light brown, I'd have to say. That looks pretty good overall. Then under that, I said we get that reflective sort of gold right there. Taking a look at that really up close and personal, we can see that that gold does indeed have a repeating pattern on it. It's got a sort of square, like a square made up of 4 squares, and then that repeats all the way around with just plain lines in between. There's 3 of those repeating patterns on that. Looks good if I do say so myself. And then the brown paper is the brown paper that I described previously. Overall, a very fancy looking cigarette that looks very unique in my personal opinion, looks very luxury, and looks very good overall. The overall quality of the cigarette seems to be very good as well. I'd hope it would be a good quality cigarette, especially since it looks this good, and it does indeed appear to be a very solid quality cigarette. And taking a look at the filter, there are 2 lines of perforation on it. There are, yep, and the dots are not super big, but there's 2 lines of perforation with not super big dots. And not too many dots, but the dots do happen every once in a while. And that line of perforation is right about there, just right above the Chapman text where it ends, right there, I'd have to say. So yep, 2 lines of perforation, but they're not too big of perforation holes by any means, and there's not too much of it, even though there are 2 lines of perforation. And overall, that's the look of the cigarette. Overall, the Chapman Gold cigarettes from Kazakhstan look great, they smell great, the quality is very good. What's the blend like though? The blend, and this one is kind of, I feel like, missing some tobacco. I'm just gonna get another one out real quick, maybe a little bit more tobacco in it so I can get a better idea of what the blend is really like. But I'd have to say the blend is very much that of a medium blend. There are some dark aspects, there are some light aspects, but neither dark nor light aspects are super light or super dark. It is more of a medium blend overall, I'd have to say. Not a medium dark blend, not a medium light blend, just a medium blend in my personal opinion. But as said, there are both dark and light aspects, along with, of course, medium aspects as well. Let's go ahead and put this cigarette back in my pack. And now, without further ado, let's go ahead and quickly refresh with a sip of water. And then after that, I'm thinking I should probably go ahead and get one of my Chapman Gold cigarettes all lit up, and I should probably get to smoking a cigarette from Kazakhstan for the first time and find out just how not only these are, but also how cigarettes from Kazakhstan are based on this one experience at least. Let's get to drinking. And I do feel a little bit fresh now. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get my lighter all out of my pocket as well. And now that I've got my Bic lighter out of my pocket, without further ado, let's go ahead and get my first ever cigarette from Kazakhstan lit up, and let's find out just how these cigarettes are, what they're like, and whether I like them or not. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying? Well, hopefully one of those will do as a screenshot for the video. We will find out. Right off the bat, I can definitely confirm these are flavored cigarettes without a doubt. And I think the filter itself as well has a little bit of sugar on it, giving the flavor of the smoke itself a little bit of a sweeter tinge due to the sugar I've got on my lips. Body-wise, very, very, very solid sized body, if I do say so myself. Very thick, smoky body, and very big body at that. Overall, a very nice, a very satisfyingly dense and large body. No complaints on my behalf about that, without a doubt. Right off the bat, I'm getting no sort of, I'd have to say, chemical taste, additive taste, or paper taste. Airflow-wise, the airflow is perfectly fine. If you wanted to pack this pack of cigarettes, I do think you could, but it's not an absolute necessity by any means, that is for sure. But you certainly could if you wanted to. And the airflow, as said, it's just perfectly fine. It's nothing particularly abnormal by any means. It's just perfectly fine. Draw-wise, I'd have to say the draw is... I'd have to say the draw is that of a medium to heavy draw, not due to the airflow, but due to the perforation of the filter. But the perforation of the filter, it doesn't taste like it's letting a lot of air in. It just tastes like it's constricting the draw a little bit, which is very interesting. But overall, the draw, I'd have to say, is very much that of a satisfyingly medium to heavy draw. You certainly cannot just lightly puff on these cigarettes. You do have to draw in a little bit more so than not. Although not super heavily by any means. This is still a lighter draw than something like, let's say, an American Spirit. And roughness and smoothness-wise, I'd have to say, I'm going to have to say like a 3.2, 3.3 out of 4, roughness and smoothness-wise. Strength-wise, I'd have to say probably a low 3 out of 4 as well, although I'm not sure exactly what quite yet. And overall, flavor-wise, it's interesting. It doesn't quite taste as good as it smells, but it does still taste quite good. I'm getting a predominantly, I'd have to say, not Virginia flavor. A predominantly vanilla flavor with some mocha, I want to say some caramel, and some other stuff going on. And now that I'm smoking for a little bit, I want to say I'm also getting a little bit of a paper taste. Excuse me, but not too much by any means. Not enough to bother me. I only noticed it because I'm paying attention. Although that paper taste could very well just be a coffee taste. It could be that. I could be wrong. Take what I say with a grain of salt, of course. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy on the internet who likes talking about cigarettes. Overall, though, very interesting. And based off the flavor, I'm guessing that Chapman as a brand is meant to compete with something like, let's say, Black Devil or Arc Royal flavored cigarettes. And I'd have to say, the most comparable cigarette I've had to this one is the Black Devil Mocha Vanilla cigarettes from Japan. Those were, I'd have to say, maybe a little bit higher quality, but overall the flavor is not all that dissimilar, although it is not exactly the same by any means. It's just got some of the same sort of flavor profile going on, some of the same intricacies going on, without a doubt. Overall, roughness and smoothness-wise, all the way to the very end of that first cigarette, I'd have to say, roughness, smoothness-wise, 3.2 out of 4, I'm going to say. And strength-wise, I'm going to have to say 3.2 out of 4 again. I'd have to say these are very much that of a heavy, medium strength cigarette, but not quite a full-on, full-flavored cigarette. But certainly strong enough to give me a buzz without a doubt. And overall, the first cigarette I just had, my first ever cigarette from Kazakhstan and my first ever cigarette from Chapman as a brand, has given me both a good impression of cigarettes from Kazakhstan and has also given me a good impression of cigarettes from Chapman as a brand as a whole as well. Based off that one cigarette, I'm thinking that cigarettes from Kazakhstan are probably pretty decent quality, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking solid-er quality than not. And I'm also thinking probably flavored. There's probably a lot of flavored cigarettes in Kazakhstan. And I'm thinking, you know, Chapman as a brand, probably more of a flavored brand than not, and probably a pretty decent quality brand as well. Overall, that first cigarette certainly did leave some good impressions on my taste buds. Let's go ahead and get another one lit up though, because I want to fully determine what the flavor of these cigarettes is like, and I don't feel like I've done that quite yet. And I also just want another cigarette to confirm what I already have found out. I want to make sure these cigarettes are of consistent quality. Let's go ahead and get another cigarette lit up, and let's go ahead and smoke another cigarette from Kazakhstan. And let's find out how this second cigarette is as well. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying? A little bit rough at the very beginning. And at the very beginning as well, I'd have to say the flavor is definitely most prominent. And yeah, I definitely have to say the filter of these cigarettes is sweetened without a doubt. There's definitely a little bit of sugar on the rim of the filter that kind of goes off onto your lips and just makes the smoke taste a little bit sweeter than not. That is pretty nice in my personal opinion, but is something that I am not used to, as of course flavored cigarettes are banned in the United States, but it is something I have experienced in the past from some cigarettes from outside the United States before. But overall, once the flavor kicks in, there's really not too much of a tobacco flavor. You can still taste it. There is still definitely an undertone of tobacco, but it's not insanely prominent by any means. And I think a mosquito bit me on the side of my face right there. Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. But But I'd have to say the flavor of these cigarettes as a whole is very much that of a sort of vanilla cream with an undertone of mocha caramel with a little bit of an undertone of coffee under that, then with a tobacco flavor under that. What is the tobacco flavor actually like, though? I'm not exactly sure quite yet. It is very much that of an undertone under the flavor that's added to the cigarette itself, but there is a flavor nonetheless, and there is a flavor of tobacco as well. Tastes good, though. These cigarettes taste great. I'm not gonna lie. They really do taste good. Pairing-wise, you know, cake. This would pair good with, like, vanilla cake. I'm not gonna lie. Vanilla cake with vanilla frosting, this would pair very well with. You know, lemon meringue cake, lemon meringue muffin, lemon poppy seed muffin. I think this would pair really well with. And I think that's really where the Virginia blend is coming in. Flavor-wise, the tobacco, on one hand, kind of tastes a little bit more, I'd have to say, mocha-like than not. Maybe a little bit more chocolatey than not, a little bit more coffee-like than not. But on the other hand, there is certainly also a sort of lemon-like flavor in there. It's hard to determine if that lemon flavor is coming from the tobacco or from the sort of vanilla flavor, but I think it's a combination of both, in all honesty. And I think the mocha is kind of a combination of both as well. I'm not sure, but either way, tastes good. I'm gonna give myself just a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna officially let y'all know just what the flavor of these cigarettes is actually like. And yeah, the more that I think about it, the more that I think that paper-like flavor I tasted with the first one wasn't actually paper, and it was actually just the sort of coffee-like flavor that I mistook for being a sort of papery flavor, a rough sort of papery flavor. It's actually a more sort of coffee flavor, I'd say. I think this would definitely pair very well with a hot chocolate or coffee, or both. Why not both at the same time, right? And if you wanted to pair this with alcohol, you know, put some Baileys in something, or put some rum in a hot chocolate or something like that kind of thing, I think this would be an amazing pairing. Basically, any alcoholic beverage with like coffee or hot chocolate, I think would be a very good pairing with this cigarette right here. Definitely a good cigarette for winter months and good cigarette for a cooler day than not like today. It's not super cool out here right now, but it is like high 60s, and so for this time of year in my local area, it is a bit more cool than not. Feels great though, feels great. Okay, so flavor-wise, I personally think the Chapman Gold Cigarettes are very much that of a lemon, vanilla, meringue, sort of frosting or cream-like flavor with an undertone of like mocha caramel with then an undertone of a little bit of coffee, and then under that, I personally think there's a little bit of a tobacco flavor as well that is both a sort of milk chocolate flavor and a slightly lemon Virginia blend flavor as well. Slightly lemony sort of Virginia blend flavor. Yeah. I'm gonna think about this just for a moment longer. Tastes good though, without a doubt. Tastes good. I can confirm. Definitely a great flavor. And I can say with confidence, I like the Chapman Gold Cigarettes. Well, I'm gonna cover what I think the flavor is really like. Once I get this cigarette all stubbed out, I'm gonna go ahead. I forgot to do this with the first one, but I'm gonna go and get all the tobacco out. of this one. Find out where the filter actually starts. So the filter itself starts below the metallic gold right here, right about where my finger is tapping, right there. So starts, I'd have to say, midway through the Chapman text, right around where the H is, right there. That's where the filter starts. And the filter itself, the main amount of the tar is in the center of the filter, so we can definitely tell the perforation is doing a little bit of its job without a doubt, but it is still spread out through the entire filter, a little bit more so than not to the fullest degree, but a little bit more so than not. So we can definitely tell while the perforation is doing its job, it's not designed to center the flavor all in one place to give you a very constricted sort of airflow out of the filter. It's definitely a wider airflow than not, but not the widest by any means. The perforation is doing its job, but it's nothing insane, to say it in a more simple terminology, I do suppose. And overall, the filter itself gets a little bit mushy at the very end, but not like super mushy, I will acknowledge. Overall, yeah, very, very, very solid stuff. And the cigarette is actually still burning. Just go and stub that out with the filter and put that over to the side so the smoke doesn't go in my face. I've got a good idea of what the cigarettes taste like, I feel like now. They taste great. I'm gonna be frank with y'all. They taste really, really, really good. And they are absolutely, without a doubt, a flavored cigarette. The Chapman Gold cigarettes are flavored. I knew that was a possibility when I was going into this video. I didn't know it for sure though, so I did not want to state that. It doesn't say that anywhere on the packaging, so I didn't want to state something that was incorrect. But these are definitely a flavored cigarette, without a doubt. And I'd have to say the flavor itself is much sweeter than not due to the smoke itself tasting a lot sweeter than not, which it does taste sweet, but not like super sweet. But the flavor itself tastes much sweeter than it would otherwise, due to there being a little bit of sugar on the rim of the filter, that when you put it on your lips, you definitely do get a little bit of that sugar. And so when you're drawing in, you get that sweeter taste than not in your mouth. And the flavor of the smoke itself is very much that, in my opinion, of a lemon, vanilla, frosting meringue-like flavor with an undertone of, I'd have to say, mocha caramel with a little bit of milk chocolate as well. And then under that, there's a little bit of a coffee flavor that is a little bit more sour than not, I'd have to say. And then there is as well a little bit of a tobacco flavor, which seems to be a combination of, I'd have to say, like a more sort of dark chocolate sort of tobacco flavor with a little bit of a Virginia blend sort of lemon-like flavor going on as well. Although I don't know exactly what parts of that tobacco flavor are actually just flavoring and which parts are actually just the tobacco itself. All I know is that I am getting a little bit of a tobacco flavor underneath all of the flavoring that's added into the cigarette. Either way though, that's what the flavor of the Chapman Gold cigarettes is actually like. Very much that of a, I'd have to say, sweeter than not flavor with a little bit of a sort of soury bitterness coming from this sort of coffee-like flavor as well. So very much that of a sweet and slightly bitter flavor that tastes fantastic without a doubt. Overall, I gotta admit, I like the Chapman Gold cigarettes from Kazakhstan, and overall, this pack of cigarettes has given me a very good impression of what cigarettes from Kazakhstan are actually like. Now, of course, I don't expect every cigarette from Kazakhstan to be of equivalent flavor and quality. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the better quality cigarettes in Kazakhstan, and I'm sure it's not respective of what unflavored cigarettes from Kazakhstan are like. But either way, this has certainly gotten me much more excited than not to try more cigarettes from Kazakhstan in the future, which thankfully I do have the opportunity to do. Thanks once again to Kirk. Look forward to more cigarette reviews of cigarettes from Kazakhstan coming up in the near future. Look forward to those. But yeah, overall, the Chapman Gold cigarettes, I like them. Would I buy a pack of these cigarettes with my own money? Without a doubt, absolutely yes. If these were sold in my local area, I would, without a doubt, buy a pack of these with my own money every once in a while. These are very good flavored cigarettes in my personal opinion, and I am most certainly going to enjoy smoking the rest of this pack right here. Now, do I really feel like these are super respective of what cigarettes in Kazakhstan are like? probably not to the fullest degree. They're giving me a good impression of cigarettes from Kazakhstan. And based off this one experience, at least I personally think cigarettes from Kazakhstan are pretty solid quality, pretty solid tasting cigarettes. But this is a flavored cigarette from a brand that isn't from Kazakhstan. These cigarettes were not made in Kazakhstan. I am thinking that these are probably not the most respective of what other cigarettes on the market in Kazakhstan are actually like. But either way, still a very good pack of cigarettes that I really like, very enjoyable without a doubt. And overall, I definitely do want to try more cigarettes from Kazakhstan in the future. That is, without a doubt, absolutely for sure. I am very excited to find out what other cigarettes from Kazakhstan are going to be like. Overall, excuse me, just had a little bit of a burp there. Excuse me. Overall, I like the Chapman Gold Cigarettes. Based off this one experience at least, I also quite like cigarettes from Kazakhstan. No complaints on my behalf, let me tell y'all what. None at all, none at all. Overall, very solid smokes. But what is the rating I want to give this pack of cigarettes right here? This pack of Chapman Gold Cigarettes. What is the rating I want to give it? Well, I'm thinking a very solid, but low 4 out of 4. Not the high 4 out of 4 that I might give cigarettes like, let's say, an American Spirit Black or a Peace Unfiltered or a The Peace, but still a 4 out of 4 nonetheless. A very solid quality cigarette with a very nice flavor, a nice depth of flavor, and a cigarette that personally is very much to my personal preference, and a cigarette that I enjoy very much as well. Overall, these are very much going to be getting a, I'd have to say, 4.2 out of 4, which is still like almost a 10 out of 10. That's like a 9.8 out of 10, I'm not gonna lie. Overall, very solid smokes. Looking forward to smoking the rest of this pack. Thank you so much once again to Kirk for having been kind enough to contribute this pack of cigarettes right here to the channel for me to smoke and make a full review on. I'm very thankful to have had the opportunity to try a cigarette from Kazakhstan for the first time today, and I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. If you guys have enjoyed watching, of course, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content. I have my Instagram, my book, my merch, my website, and everything like that all in the description down below. Go check it all out. If you guys are from Kazakhstan, let me know if there's any cigarettes y'all would love to see me try and let you guys know what I think of them. Are there any like Kazakh market cigarettes that are must-tries if I visit Kazakhstan? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys have tried the Chapman Gold cigarettes as well, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of them and whether what I said was accurate or not. Thank you so much for watching this video once again, y'all. Till the next one, stay safe in peace and have a great one. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying?